Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our Chinese Grand Preview video for the Chinese Grand Prix this weekend, which is a sprint race weekend, our first sprint of the year, and it's also the return of F1 Academy. We'll have coverage of all of that all across the weekend, so make sure you subscribe for all of that to come. Before we get into this video, huge shout out to the members: Dakota, the Joyce James, Robin Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, and F, and they are the members on YouTube and on the Patreon, because as of this week we have launched a Patreon, link in the description if you want to join us on either one of those. The new video went out on Tuesday of the Stop and Go F1 retro review of 1981, so make sure you go check that out as well after this, of course. And if you do want to see all of the 1981 series right now, it's available both on the YouTube membership and on the Patreon. Anyway, let's get into this weekend. Of course, the big news of this weekend is the sad passing of the legend Eddie Jordan. There is a video out already on the channel all about him and just remembering him and just how great of a guy he was. So go check that video out if you haven't seen that one already as well. But in this video, we're going to focus on the news surrounding this weekend. We're not going to have a special helmet street, because as of right now, no driver has announced a special helmet. And we have not got Upgrade Corner, because the FIA do not release the upgrade list until Friday morning. And we are recording this on Thursday, because it is a sprint race weekend. But we have got our predictions, which of course we are never, ever wrong about. And we also have got just a lot of news headlines coming out of this week. Now, there's the big one going into this week is all about the rear wings. The stricter rear wing tests being introduced this weekend. Here's the official statement from the FIA regarding this. They say, following analysis from the Australian Grand Prix, the FIA has decided to toughen rear wing flexibility tests starting at the Chinese Grand Prix. There's an update to Article 3.15.17. When 75 kilograms of load is applied to the rear wing, the slot gap must not vary by more than 0.5 millimeters instead of the 2 millimeter gap they had previously. They will temporarily allow a tolerance of 0.25 millimeters for the Chinese Grand Prix, but after that it is a strict 0.5 millimeter rule. Now, this rule, it is believed, has been brought in to target McLaren, who allegedly are the ones who are benefiting the most from this less strict approach to that rear wing gap. Although Lando Norris has come out this morning in the media sessions and said that McLaren do not have to change anything whatsoever and they are completely fine, as is every other team. According to every other team, they're also fine. It does not apply to them. So apparently everyone's already following this rule and everything's going to be fine, and we will not see any massive difference in on-track action. Who knows about this? The flexi wings are a huge thing this year. Of course, this rear wing one coming in here, but also there's the front wing one coming in Spain. Both are believed to be targeted at McLaren, although they have said, no, it's not, we're fine, we're following the rules. If it will change anything on track, we'll see it when I believe it, because, I don't know. At the minute, they seem very comfortable. We'll see how it is. The only team that I can see that has made a visible change to their rear wing going into this weekend is Red Bull. But not because of their flexi wing, because the Red Bull logo has returned to the back of the Red Bull car. This is due to a Chinese ban on crypto sponsors, which I was not aware was a thing. So Gate.io, who were their rear wing sponsor, have now been replaced by the Red Bull logo itself, and may I say, it looks far, far better. Anyway, moving on from rear wings, because that's going to be a big story this weekend. And if McLaren aren't on the front row, all the fingers are going to be pointing. But something now, which is far more important to me than rear wings and crypto sponsors. This is the topic now that I have been following intently for years. And it's had a new chapter. It's all about, what does the person who gets sprint pole get as a reward? It's not the snappiest title in the world. It's a work in progress, but here we are. So we know if you win the race, you get the trophy, you go on the podium. We know if you get pole position, you have to sign your name on that tyre, and you get the tyre. But what about sprint pole? Surely you must get something for sprint pole. And this has been something that has been an issue within Formula One for years. And every year they change it. And we've got a new thing this year as well. So here we go. Here's a quick history of reward for sprint poles, everybody. This is gripping stuff. So, let's go back. Cast your minds back, everybody. 2021/2022. The introduction of the sprint races. Now, back then, the rules were different. So, you got pole position, and you were on a sprint pole, and then the sprint race results would determine the grid for the race. So, if you got pole position for sprint pole, you also had pole position for the weekend, so you would get the traditional tyre that you had signed. But in 2023, the rules change, and the sprint race is a separate race with its own separate qualifying. So, this is where the conundrum starts. What do you get if you get sprint pole position? And the answer was given to us in the form of a Pirelli hat with some paint on it. This was it. This was the big prize for getting sprint pole position. You got a Pirelli hat, which it looked like someone was wearing whilst they were painting the ceiling. But then last year, they came around and said, oh, I don't know, maybe the Pirelli hat with some paint on it isn't the way to go. Let's change it up. And change it up they did, getting rid of the paint hat instead for a poster. And we can see here, this is for Austria. You get a poster of the outline of the track, and it has the sprint qualifying thing on there, and it's a whole thing. And that was the new thing for sprint pole. But this year they've gone, no. The hat with the paint on it didn't work. The poster didn't work. What we need for sprint pole is a trophy. And this is it. And this is the weirdest photo I think I've ever seen. It's such an odd angle. But you can see it's got the soft tyre on the top. Pirelli are celebrating 500 Grand Prix later on this year. So that's what that is there. There's a little thing on the bottom which you can engrave someone's name on. But now, this trophy is what you're going to get if you get sprint pole position. The photo they've released is so bad, I have no idea the size of it, the angle, I don't really know what's going on at all. But this is the newest chapter in the thing that has captivated me for years now in terms of what's the reward for sprint pole. Here it is, a lovely trophy. I say bring back the paint hat, that was always my favourite, but we'll make do with what we've got here for now. Should go back to some racing, because last weekend in Australia, many, including myself, pointed to a moment in the race between Lewis Hamilton and his race engineer where there was a bit of an argument in terms of pressing buttons and whatever. Lewis Hamilton has come back at this because he's not happy with some of the media scrutiny that's gone into his radio messages. Here is a quote from Lewis Hamilton himself. Go and listen to the radio calls with others and their engineers. They are far worse. The conversation that Max has with his engineer over the year, the abuse that poor guy's taken, and you never write a thing about it. But you wrote about the smallest little smallest little discussion I had with mine. Few things here. I understand where he's coming from. I think people were just writing about it because obviously it was a big part of the race. It was one of the only real upsets we heard on the radio from that point of view as well. You know, I spoke about it for sure because it was part of the race. I think where he says you never write about Max and his engineer, I don't know what he's been reading, but every time there's a little bit of a discussion between Max and his engineer, it gets written about. So that is definitely not true. Also, to use the word abuse so fragrantly, you know, it's like throwing it away, I think is wrong. I see where he's coming from because, you know, we have heard arguments between drivers and engineers, especially from Max and GP, and the one between Lewis and his engineer was nowhere near the scale that we've heard from there. But for him to say you don't write about Max shouting at his engineers, that's just not true. It's not true at all. And I think with Lewis as well, the reason there was so much of a spotlight on it as well was because, firstly, he wasn't doing well in the race. Secondly, his relationship with his engineer when it was Bono was such like a legendary thing and people loved it so much. And they never had that kind of interaction that I'm aware of. So to go for this was a completely different thing that we'd come to see from Lewis Hamilton. So it was new. It was different. It was interesting. So I don't see the issue with writing about it. I understand why he would be upset about people writing about him in a negative light, because of course you would. But then to come out and lash out, you don't write about this guy, when they do, I mean, it doesn't show well for Lewis, who I think might not be having the best time right now because, it didn't go well last weekend, but all you need is one good race weekend and everything's back on its head again. Everything's all sunshine and rainbows. So, get your head down. You'll be fine. It's all going to be good. Sticking with Ferrari now, though, because there's something I really want to discuss. Ferrari have brought out some new merchandise this weekend with their new partnership with Puma. And I would just like to show you the shorts that they have for sale. I'm not really going to say anything about this because I think, what they say, a picture says 1,000 words. This picture says quite a lot of words. Here are the brand new Ferrari shorts. Yeah. Just for those of you who are listening on Spotify and can't see the visual here, let me try and describe what I'm seeing. They are red Ferrari shorts with streaks of white liquid all over them. Well, there you go. Fashion, eh? I say if you wear those, you've really got to have some spunk to you, Come on now. Here we go. Also, alongside these funky, spunky Ferrari shorts, you can also have the spunky, funky Ferrari hat. It's only $40, so why wouldn't you buy it? F1 merchandise, in terms of clothing, often is bad. It always has been. Especially like the teamwear. Teamwear in F1 is always bad because you're just a walking billboard for about 20 different brands that you've never heard of. And it's always ludicrously expensive. F1 merchandise, in general, bad. But it has never been as bad as this. That is the worst design I think I've ever seen for anything in F1 history. How can this get past the design phase? How can anyone look at that and go, yeah, that's fine? What is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be like champagne? Is that what it is? Because let me tell you, it doesn't look like champagne. It looks incredibly questionable. It's not good. It's not good at all. I'm surprised it's still available to buy. I think the shorts as well are like 60 quid. 60 quid to have shorts that look like you've actually accidentally had a good time walking around. It's oh dear. Let's move on now. Before we get to our predictions, of course, as I said, F1 Academy back this weekend, their first race of the year, and huge, great, big, positive news coming out of F1 Academy because they've changed their format, and oh my god, is it all the better for it. So, last year, we had a sprint race and a feature race for F1 Academy. The feature race, as always, was the grid was determined by qualifying fastest to slowest. But the sprint race would be determined by everyone's second fastest time. And what that meant, 9 times out of 10, was that we had 2 identical grids for the races. Especially like the top 3. But after I moaned about it every race weekend last year, it has now been changed. So we have got 2 races yet again. They are 2 races of equal distance, 30-minute sessions rather than laps as of right now, but that might just be a thing for like 30 minutes depending on track, and we'll see what the laps are supposed to be as we get to the track. But race 2 will be set by everyone's fastest lap times, as the normal race is, but race 1 will be reversing the top 8 fastest drivers. Thank God, the reverse grid has reached F1 Academy. I mean, last year, F1 Academy was good, but every race weekend, you knew Abby Pulling was going to win, you knew Dorian Pan was going to be second, and third would either be Maya Virg or maybe Chloe Chambers if she was having a good weekend, or maybe someone else, but most probably one of those 2 or 3. This time, now, imagine last year, if every race weekend, you got to see Abby Pulling have to fight through the grid. That would have been so good. Because the thing is with F1 Academy, the gap in talent is bigger than any other formula, like Formula 2, Formula 1, Formula 3. The very top of the F1 Academy and the very bottom of F1 Academy, the gap is bigger than Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 1. And because of that, what you have is a few names who are always at the top and a few names who are always at the bottom, and you don't really see them fighting. Now you're going to have to see that. You're going to have to see that, and you might get a surprise winner on the Saturday race. That's so much more fun. So great news for F1 Academy going forward. Their weekends will be massively improved by this. I am sure of it. And also, it'll make the championship a hell of a lot more interesting, because it will go to show, are you just someone who puts it on pole, then runs away and wins the race, or can you actually overtake some cars? That's what we want to see. Good stuff, F1 Academy. Right, we're already at our predictions, because we haven't got Special Helmet Street Upgrade Corner, or what's the other one we do? I can't remember. It'll be back anyway. It'll be back next time. Oh, free practice roundup. There it is. So, prediction time. And I've got a bit of a basic one for my first prediction. Now, of course, we never get any of our predictions wrong, ever. Last weekend, I said that Lewis Hamilton would be between 6th and 10th, and he was between 6th and 10th. I think I also said that, is it 2 or 3 of the top 8 drivers wouldn't finish? And I think it was only 2. But, we'll just claim that as correct, because why not? So my first prediction is that we'll have a different winner in the sprint race and the main race. Incredibly basic prediction. My go-to prediction at a sprint race weekend. But you know what? It's too early in the season to be making drastic predictions. So we're going with a safe one for prediction number 1. Prediction number 2 is where we put the boat out a little bit more. This is where we push it out. This is where we go, look at this prediction, look at it come true. And that is, Kimi Antonelli will beat George Russell in the feature race on Sunday. That is my prediction number 2. He was incredible last weekend, despite a bad qualifying that wasn't his fault. George Russell did well as well, but he was kind of left alone for a lot of the race. He just kind of ran his own race. Still did very well. This time, Antonelli is going to come out in qualifying. He'll do well. He'll beat George Russell. I can see it. I can see it in the distance. And you'll see it on Sunday. As I said, we'll have coverage for everything this weekend on the channel, including tomorrow morning we'll have the sprint qualifying reactions. Sprint race and main qualifying on the Saturday, the feature race on Sunday, as well as F1 Academy on Sunday as well. All of that to come with driver ratings on the Monday, then Stop and Go F1 retro review of 1981 Argentinian Grand Prix on the Tuesday. So much stuff hitting the channel over the weekend and into the start of next week. So subscribe for all of that. As I said, the tribute to Eddie Jordan is out on the channel now, so make sure you go check that one out as well. We will see you tomorrow morning. Until then, though, have a good one. I'll see you later. Goodbye.